Recorded. All right. So we're going to go over section 107, anti-terrorism / force protection and security fundamentals. So for 107.1, explain the anti-terrorism program.
See, security program falls under. Yeah, I guess just the anti-terrorism program is the anti-terrorism program. Collective proactive effort focused on the prevention and detection of terrorist attacks against the Department of Defense. Basically, security protocols and stuff, That's a big, long definition for stating that it's security protocols.
Cool. That makes sense.
Interior guard chain of command.
So like overarching your protocol or security protocols. All right, discuss the interior guard chain of command.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is just like the chain of command for, when Marines stand duty, basically. So if you scroll down, you start at the bottom, right? So the main guard sentries, that's your PFCs, lance corporals. They always stand it with a corporal of the guard.
I guess before we go into details for each one of them, like what is the interior guard? Is that just like specifically for like when you are doing some type of like you're at like a facility specifically or a makeshift or just like in general?
Think of it like they can implement this basically anywhere. We mostly saw it like in the barracks, like day-to-day operations for the unit. The main guard sentries and the corporal of the guard, they stood in the duty, the barracks duty, the sergeant of the guard, and then as it works its way up, they have a bigger, like basically kind of scope. Scope, but like
area of
so the sergeant of the guard, commander of the guard, basically all just reporting up.
Is that kind of like the Navy's version of like the OOD and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Cool. There's an OOD here, so I don't know what the Navy calls it. I've never, being at the clinic, we never did this, being a medical facility, but on the green side, yeah. And they can implement this kind of anywhere. Like if they have this at the embassies, this chain of command at different, like the nuclear facilities, like the dudes who it's called like Banger up at where they have all the nuclear subs and stuff like this, the MSGs. They have this basically everywhere. When we were in like standing post, I mean, it didn't go all the way up, but it could have. Like, so the main guard sentries are the guys that stand post. The corporal of the guards are one that goes around and checks on those guys. They report up to the sergeant of the guard, who in turn, so on and so forth. Commander of the guard, officer of the day, field officer of the day, CO. This lays out like the technical responsibilities. I don't know if you want to get into them, but basically this is just the chain of command.
I guess just breaking them down to like the main guard sentry, the main focus, it seems like they're pretty much like at the guardhouse providing security, or I guess at guardhouse following general orders. And then corporal of the guard supervise the members of the guard assigned to that relief, assign sentries to the relief, and then forms the relief in sufficient time to accomplish the following: issue guard property, inspect appearance, fitness of duty, conditions of arm, issue ammunition, and supervised loading weapons. So it sounds like they're just like supervisors to the
Yep. And they're a lot more like the further you get up, the less active they are, right? So the main guard sentries are the ones like that you the foot patrols around the base or up on the in the guard hut in the wherever it is. Corporal the guards back and forth between like say the COC and wherever these guys are standing duty at. Like they're physically checking on them. They're going up there, checking on them, make sure they got everything, and then they're coming back and reporting to the sergeant of the guard, who's at like probably some type of COC or something, and then so on and so forth. They're always reporting up. And then the ranks are in the names, right? These are, it starts with your PFCs, lance corporals, goes to corporal, goes to sergeant. Commander of the guard is usually an officer overseeing everything, but it could also, I mean, I've seen it be staff NCOs. I don't think they kind of like specify here. I've seen it be staff NCOs. Officer of the day is going to be an officer, and then field officer of the day, commanding officer, so on.
So then for the sergeant of the guard, I have assist commander of the guard and maintains proper policing.
Mhm.
And then so after that is the commander of the guard. And they ensure proper instruction, discipline. You said the commander of the guard is usually an officer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually
Ensure,
a JO, usually a junior officer.
okay.
Usually like a first lieutenant or something.
Oh. Ensure proper instruction, discipline, and performance of the duty. The main guard ensure that all members of the guard are correctly instructed in their orders and duties, and they are understood and properly executed. When an alarm is sounded, expeditiously forms the reserve if necessary, ensures the security of prisoners under charge of the guard. So for them, it sounds like they are more obviously like in charge, like doing officer things, but more specifically, they're in charge of if alarms are sounded.
Mhm. Yeah, these guys, I've never really seen them, anybody being the commander of the guard. For us, they usually jump from like an SOG up to the OD, but they got it in here.
Okay, I'm just gonna put in charge of if alarm is sounded and in charge of prisoners. And lower guards. Next, we got the OOD, the deck. The OOD, officer of the deck aboard ships, supervises the main guard, charged with the execution of all orders of the CO with concerns to security of the area within the assigned jurisdiction. In case of alarm, acts immediately to protect life, government property, and preserve. So it sounds like they're kind of similar to, are those like like the same type of position? I guess like just like within off, like I'm saying, the commander of the guard versus the officer of the day. Like is the commander of a guard like a position that someone holds, like, oh, I am like my job is the commander of the guard, versus like officer of the day is like somebody gets like filling in for those positions like throughout each day, like, oh, you might have it on this day, then some other junior
I
officer
mean,
has a different day.
no, I don't, I know what you're trying to say, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because for us, yeah, it was always a rotating like duty schedule. It was
Okay.
never a permanent person.
It could be the same thing too, where it's like OOD and the commander of the guard are doing similar tasks, but they kind of like rotate. So it's like you're doing different, like there's probably like a couple things that you would do versus like chain of command wise.
Yeah.
So OOD is like similar to commander of guard, but on ships. Then field officer of the day, field OOD, supervises the entire interior guard, receives orders from the CO only, and serves the CO personal or direct personal representative. So it's kind of like the XO
Yeah.
of guard. And then obviously the CO, which is responsible. The CO, security of the command is absolute, may delegate authority to subordinates for execution duties with such allegation shall in no way receive the CO. Okay, so he is in charge of absolute security, but can delegate. Cool.
These next ones are fun.
Yeah, these ones are pretty much like you just have to like go and memorize them and be done with it. Because I don't imagine that. I imagine they're just gonna ask you to recite them. They're not gonna be like, oh, I mean, they might ask you to explain it, but I feel like they're kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah, for us, they just asked us random ones that went down the line. Asked us a
Okay.
random number, we just had to recite it.
General orders 1 through 11. Cool. 107.4. Define deadly force and when it may be used.
So this one is just, here's the definition of deadly force. Oh, let me see. These seem longer than when they're written different. These not, they're written differently. Yeah. So again, these are, I mean, these are pretty straightforward. Just memorizing, right?
Okay. I guess first is like deadly force. So deadly force is the efforts of an individual used against another to cause death. So, or substantial risk of death or serious bodily harm. Deadly force is justified only under certain conditions. So deadly force is causing death only authorized in certain conditions. And then there are her conditions are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 conditions. 1, so self-defense. 2, assets out of national security. So national security. Dangerous property when deadly force is reasonably appears to be necessary to prevent actual theft. Oh, so protect property. And then national critical infrastructure. When deadly force reasonable to, okay, so protect infrastructure. Serious offense against protection, so protect others. Arrest or apprehension when deadly force reasonable appear to be necessary to arrest or apprehend when there is probable cause to believe person has committed a serious offense and there is imminent threat of death or bodily harm to DoD personnel or other vicinity. So arrest or apprehension after crime committed to protect others. And then finally for escape. Cool. Easy peasy.
Those are pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah. Then 107.5 discussed the following terms: access, classification, compromise, spillage, and unclassified information.
This is all your cybersecurity and chaos.
Okay. So then access, the ability and opportunity to obtain knowledge or possession of classified information. Obtaining / possessing classified info. And classification. The determination by an authorized official that official information requires in the interest of national security a specific degree of protection against unauthorized disclosure. What does that even? Like, I know what classification means, but determination by an authorized official that official information requires in the interest of national security a specific degree of protection. Okay, so it's just like
Yeah, your secret top
information
secret, designated to certain information.
levels. So it's information protection levels.
Yeah.
And compromised and unauthorized disclosure. Unauthorized disclosure. And then spillage occurs when data is placed on an information technology system possessing insufficient information security control to protect the data at the required classification, i.e. secret information on an unclassified machine. So would it be spillage causes compromise?
Yeah. Well, more specifically, like the example you have, a certain classification on, or yeah, like secret information on unclassified server. So a compromise can
I guess
be,
it could cause compromise.
yeah. So compromise is just more of like an umbrella term, right? You have like compromise information if someone overhears you, or you're talking outside the skiff or whatever it is. Spillage is, yeah, I think it just for, could be wrong, for like cybersecurity.
Okay. And then classified information. Classified info. So this information is determined under the executive order. Do you need to know this executive orders?
I don't remember
Like, yes.
if they asked us.
I think I'll just be in general and be like, there's an executive order that says that. So information that has been determined under executive order 12958 or any successive orders that require protection against unauthorized disclosure. So classified information, so information requiring protection under or protection against unauthorized disclosure via executive order. Boom.
And these are just your classification levels: top secret, secret, confidential.
107.6 classification levels. And there are 3. Top secret. Top secret level applied to information whose authorized disclosure could reasonably be expected to cause exceptionally grave damage to national security. So
And
top
those,
secret.
that part of the definition is, I believe they asked us where it was like that first sentence there.
Okay, yeah, could cause exceptionally grave damage.
Yeah.
Could cause
You'll see the other definitions are kind of close, but wordedly a little different.
To national security and secret. Classification of information whose unauthorized disclosure could reasonably be expected to cause. Oh, so it's either cause exceptionally grave damage, cause serious grave damage, or cause
damage, right? You see the
damage.
little
Yeah.
Yeah, those little distinctions there, those are important.
Could cause serious, grave damage to national security, and then for confidential could cause damage to national security. Cool. Easy. 107.7. Discuss the steps of OPSEC.
Yeah, so this is like
Isn't there like a mnemonic for that? What is it?
I don't know.
I can't
I'm not
remember
sure.
now. No, it's fine.
Yeah,
When I
this
did
is
my
like
AW pin, I remember.
for identifying and implementing like security measures, right? So like
ORM.
yeah, kind of, but more like on a force protection level, not just like the ORM you can kind of like apply to anything, right? Like painting a ship, you can do an operational risk management. This is more like big stuff, like so you're gonna identify your critical information, or like not just, and it's not just information, so like could be like a ship in dry dock, right? Just basically anything important that could be targeted in your operational area, on your base, in your clinic, whatever it is. Go from, so you identify those to conducting a threat analysis and conducting vulnerability analysis. Like how big of a thing is this that someone would possibly want to like attack or disrupt, right? Like, so your nuclear silos are probably have a higher threat analysis than a ship and dry dock kind of thing. And then so like the threat analysis is outside threats, and vulnerability analysis is like your current protections against it. And then your risk assessment is like kind of it's like putting it all together kind of thing.
Wait, so for the vulnerability analysis, is it like testing?
No, like so the threat analysis is how badly someone would want to get to it. Vulnerability is how like susceptible that thing is to being got to. Does that kind of make sense? Like,
Yeah. So threat analysis is more of like the level of interest someone would have in getting or attacking, and then the vulnerability analysis is more of like where are the weak spots and how could this be done?
yeah. And the risk assessment, anticipated severity of loss, involves assessing the adversary's ability to exploit the vulnerabilities and would lead to the exposure of critical information and the potential impact it would have on the mission. Yeah, so this is kind of like putting it all together, the risk assessment, like how big, kind of like it's like a way of putting the threat analysis and the vulnerability analysis together to get like one risk assessment. Does that kind of make sense? Like,
so it's the evaluation of risk. And then apply countermeasures is just what it says.
So it's like it sounds like they're using more information cybersecurity, you kind of think, to define these, which is like it's all kind of the same, right? You're whether it's like a physical thing or just information, just that's kind of like the way I always thought about it when just kind of understanding the fundamentals of it, but make sure you're like kind of taking out the key parts of this definition too. You know what I mean?
Okay. So then for OPSEC, there's 5 parts. Identify critical information, so figuring out what's at risk. 2, conduct a threat analysis, so see how much someone would actually want to get whatever is at risk. 3, conduct vulnerability analysis, so how could this risk be exploited. 4, risk assessment, which is a combination pretty much of the first or number 2 and number 3, or the threat analysis and the vulnerability analysis to evaluate the risk. And then 5, apply countermeasures or make corrections for risk. Cool. All right, 107.8. Methods used in the collection of information.
Yeah, so this is like how the intel, different ways the intel guys get, their intel.
Yeah, okay.
And this is pretty straightforward too. Human intelligence is, like a human source intelligence. Signal intelligence is kind of intercepted, like electronic transmissions. So it's right there. Communications. Oh, and yeah, and communications is a type of signal intelligence. Like, you got those that stuff on the ships and planes that kind of intercept different electronic information to include communications. Open source is like, I don't know if you remember there's that NKO where it's like it's kind of like all about this, really, the loose lips sink ship one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so open source is like a way. Remember when that lady's giving you the tattoo and you kind of like give little bits
Yeah,
of
she's like asking questions. Yeah.
Yeah, they're able to piece it all together. So open source is like someone can get different info from, like, news, radio, television, things like that, and they put it all together and they like, make a more complete picture based on different pieces of information.
Getting pieces to connect the puzzle.
And the imagery, I think this one's new, but like spy planes and stuff when they're taking pictures over different areas. Yeah, different visual intelligence.
Oh, and then one other one, measure and signature, which is little known collective discipline that occur or concerns weapon capabilities and industry activities. Use the data generally from overhead and airborne. So is that more of like based off of the imagery intelligence and the signal intelligence, like being able to figure out what the enemy has, like what their abilities are?
Yeah, it kind of, that's what it looks like. This one definitely is new. But yeah, it looks like it's imagery and signal intelligence combined for that.
So it'd be IMINT/SIGINT to know weapons capabilities. Cool. All right, 107.9. Discuss the concepts of an insider threat and how to identify one.
Yeah, good old insider threat stuff. This one also very fun in KO. Pretty straightforward. Unauthorized personnel wittingly or unwittingly gain access to areas to possibly harm national security interests.
Unauthorized access to harm national security. Insider threat identification. Identification.
So like if they're doing these things, right? So information collection, if you have a possible insider threat, they keep classified materials in unauthorized locations. The big one is attempting to access sensitive information without authorization, like they try to get on authorized servers. Obtaining access to sensitive information inconsistent with present duty requirements. That's kind of the same thing. Accessing information that they're not supposed to have, basically. And then they're going to try to get that information out, so information transmittal. If they use unclassified transmitting sources to transmit classified materials, because obviously if it's an unclassified medium, what it says, but like also unsecure, someone can intercept it. Discussing classified materials on non-secure telephones or removing classification markings from documents. So pretty straightforward.
And then suspicious behaviors like a bunch of debt, working outside of normal duty hours, and then attempting to conceal foreign travel.
Yep. Someone who's got, when you have to do that stupid little game where it's like identify them more or whatever.
Yeah,
this guy has $1 million worth of debt, and he
do you
goes
think
to
he's
Libya every 2 weeks. Like, duh, okay.
But he also has like all these cars and stuff. Or multiple vacations. Yeah. All right, then 107.10, define terrorism and identify its characteristics.
These are just, so these are pretty straightforward, and this is just memorization, you know what I mean? There's just definitions. They did ask us, what was it? Is there something about the terrorist motivations, right? So one of in the definition, motivated by religious, procedure, power, political change. I think they asked us something like, it's like what were their motivations, something basic like that, or it was what were their goals. I remember they're definitely hitting on something like this, but I mean, none of this is very overly complicated. I guess it's pretty straightforward.
Mentioning violence to achieve goals, and then motivations, power, political, religious, or money, perspectives, juvenile. Wait, so they ask questions about the goals?
Yeah, so you got your long range goals and short range goals, right? Topple governments, influence top level decisions, gain recognition for their cause. You think about kind of things like what has the Taliban been trying to do for the last 20 years?
Yeah.
It's like, and then even short range goals. These are basically thinking of, not like, I mean, we think of it in a way like, or you can think of it in a way like what does the enemy want to do, like, but we also have been fighting, our basic, the last 20 years has been a war against terror. So like, this is what has the enemy been trying to do for the last 20 years,
Yeah. All right. Free.
FP cons.
107. Yeah.
Thought
that is okay.
Yeah. So
how much are they going to use for the FP cons? Were they looking for like just in general, or were they asking more like, "Oh, give us a one specific," or give us multiple specifics of each one?
Wait, say that again. What were you saying? Like
I'm looking at this and it has like a definition and then like other like drop downs from each one of them.
Oh yeah. Okay. Right. So the FP con, the overall, like, what the FP con system is, right? The
Yeah.
protection codes for not codes, but levels for the base, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
security for the base. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the definition is more or less the overview for what your how many are there? 4, right? Yeah, up to Delta. What your 4 FPCon levels are. I don't remember what they asked us on these, if they did or not. But if you read them, you like reading the definitions. It's not too hard. Like what, when you were getting on and off base, what did they do? They're checking, 100% ID checks and different drills and stuff. I guess I did that more at the security for the clinic, but yeah, it is a lot, but it's not like overly difficult.
And then method 2, that's 107.12 methods to reduce visibility to adversaries.
Yeah, protection for like us as service members. What are basically the guidelines for social media in the workplace? Maintaining the low profile, be unpredictable, be vigilant. This was in the shoot. Was it the anti-terrorism? No, yeah, it was an active shooter. Anti-terrorism at NKO. They went over all I think they added social media to this, but like when you maintain a low profile, obviously they don't want you wearing your dress blues at the airport. Like
like one every single day, or driving home in uniform.
Yeah, blend in and take different, be unpredictable. Don't keep a routine outside of the home, and then be vigilant. Obviously, watch out for threats.
Okay, cool. All right, easy
Protect
peasy.
your automobile. Yeah, lock your doors. Crazy. Yeah. Crazy that you got to study that.
Yeah, I guess you'd be surprised. It's in there for a reason. All right.